Okay, kiddos, so now what we're going to do is we are going to practice solving for y. So I have three simple steps that we can use to solve for y, which will get us to the answer that we need using our calculator. So first off, make sure that you have your decimals pulled up. What we're going to do is just use this to find our simplified answer. So first step, we're going to add the opposite of the x to both sides. So if we notice right over here, we got x and y on one side. So I like to draw a line down the middle of that just to make sure that we have both sides separated. So I also like to circle that y value so I don't forget a negative if there's a negative, or I recognize if there's a plus there. So the first thing it says, add the opposite of the x to both sides. So the opposite of this 2x, and of course that's a positive 2x, the opposite of positive 2x is negative 2x. Okay, so it says to both sides, because if I know if it's equal, I always have to do the same thing to both sides. So the main thing though is I'm going to remember that this is a numbers column, and this has an x in it. So I'm going to put it to the right of that. So I'm going to put minus 2x to the right so I don't make a simple mistake. Okay, good. So that's step number one. Okay, so step number two, we're going to divide both sides by the number in front of the y. Make sure we don't forget any negatives. So the number in front of the y is this negative 4. So let's work from left to right. That cancels out. I'm going to bring down my negative 4y equals negative 12 minus 2x, right? Okay, so I said divide both sides by the number in front of the y. So that is negative 4. So I'm going to divide that by negative 4. So if I do that to the left side, I have to do it to the right. So I'm going to divide that by negative 4, and I'm going to divide that by negative 4. Okay, so we've done step number 2 as well. Now step number 3, we're going to simplify the answer. Okay, so simplify means we're just going to put it into the calculator if it's necessary. So let's go from left to right. We know these negative 4's over here cancel out, right? We're going to bring down the y equals. Okay, so let's start over here. Negative 12 divided by negative 4. If we're not sure what that is, let's go and just type it into the calculator, right? So we can push that fraction button or the division to make that. We're going to put negative 12 on top. Okay, we're going to go down and we're going to push that negative 4 on bottom. Okay, so that gives us, as you might expect, a positive 3. So we're just going to write 3 right over here. Okay, and then we have negative 2 divided by negative 4. So it's just the numbers in front of the x. So we can just push the blue button to go to the next line. Okay, so once again, I can just push that division button to make a fraction. Put negative 2 on top. Okay, I'm going to go down. I'm going to put negative 4 on bottom. Okay, so this will reduce it. So we got a decimal there, but if we push that circle button on the decimals, it will convert into a fraction. So it's positive 1 over 2. So instead of this negative 2 over negative 4, we're going to write positive 1 over 2. Okay, and so then the major thing that we don't want to forget is we don't want to forget to bring down that x. So we're going to bring the x over there. So now we are done. That's our answer. Y equals 3 plus 1 half x. Okay, let's keep that in mind. Let's keep it moving on this one. So we said we're going to probably circle our y value first, draw our line down. Said add the opposite of the x to both sides. The opposite of that positive 12x is negative 12x. Okay, so if I'm going to do it to the left side, got it to the right side as well. We said that's a numbers column, so we're going to put it to the right side, minus 12x. Okay, working from left to right, these opposites cancel out. We're going to bring down our negative y. Now one thing is, I may want to put that 1 up there because I know it's a negative 1y, so that may help me on this last step, in case, especially if I get stumped. So let's just go and put that 1 there. We're going to bring down that 30 minus that 12x. Okay, so now we said we're going to divide both sides by the number in front of the y, so that's a negative 1 in front of there. So that's helpful why we put that 1 there. Okay, I'm going to divide that by negative 1. I'm going to divide that by negative 1. Okay, now our last step, we're going to simplify. We know these negative ones canceled out every time, so we have just y equals. If we don't know for sure, we can type that into the calculator. But anytime we divide by negative 1, it just changes the polarity. So instead of positive 30, it's going to be negative 30. Right over here, the same thing. Right? Instead of this negative 12, the divided by negative 1 is going to make it a positive 12x. And that's our answer. Okay, next, okay, keep it going, same steps. Okay, so I may want to circle that with a y. Now this is a little different. We notice that we don't have the x on this side. Okay, but we just still follow the same steps. We can't. We want the x over here, so we're not going to add the opposite. Okay, so on this one we're not going to do it. We got to keep that in mind because we want just that y over there. So let's go to the next step. This is divide both sides by the number in front of the y. So once again, you may notice we're just keep doing the same steps, just different numbers. So working from left to right, these negative 8's cancel out as we would expect, so we have y equals. Now if you're not sure if this reduces or what it is, okay, negative 5 divided by negative 8. Let's go and type it into our calculator. First off, we know it's going to be a positive answer, right? Because it has a negative divided by negative. So we're going to put that negative 5 on top. Okay, going to go to the bottom. We're going to have a negative 8 on bottom. Okay, so we're going to push that, and as we might expect, it's just going to be a positive 5 over 8. But if we're not sure, just type it into the calculator. Okay, so next we have positive 7 over negative 8. We can type that into the calculator, but one thing we know is positive divided by negative is going to make a negative. And then also, if there's only one number separating them, 7 over 8, 8 over 7, or similars, they can never be reduced. So we could type it in, but it would not make a difference. Now, which one has the x? That looks a little weird. This one has the x. So just make sure that we don't get caught up in just putting the x somewhere. It has to go in the correct spot. So that is our answer. So that's a different variety. Okay, next, look at this one. This just looks a little bit differently, but if we keep in mind the same steps, it's just a little bit different. So we said, of course, add the opposite to x to both sides, but the x is already on the other side. So we're going to skip that step, right? Next, we're going to but we want to get the y by itself. So now we want to, this is the only difference from that step 1. We're going to add the opposite of that. So we're going to subtract that negative 143. Now, I'm just going to put that on this right side once again, right over there. Okay, now working from left to right, these two opposites right over here cancel out. I bring down my y equals. Now, what we need to recognize is I already have y equals. Okay, so even though this looks crazy right over here, that does not matter. I can just bring that right back down. I'm going to say 13 parentheses x plus 13, close it, minus 143. If we type that in, that will give us what we need in decimals. Okay, and then our last one, check this out. Okay, so remember we said add the opposite of the x to both sides. Let's circle that y like we talked about. If we notice it's already on this right side. Okay, so that may mess us up a little bit, so let's do this. I like having the y on the left side. That's what we want. So let's just do this. I'm going to put equals, and I'm going to move that 4x right over there, right? Just do that, and I'm going to bring that out. And now I'm making a new equation. So now I'm going to start with this, right? So I'm going to change it to a different color, so we got that, right? So let's go through our steps. Add the opposite of the x to both sides. X is already over here. I'm good with that, right? So now we still want to get that y by itself, but I want to get rid of that minus 5. Right? That's what I want to move to the other side. So now I need to let me erase that because we ran out of room. Okay, so I got that minus, I got the 4x. I'm going to put the minus 5 to the right side, right? Working from left to right. Once again, these opposites cancel out. We're going to bring down the 3y equals 4x minus 5. Okay, so now our last step number 2. We said divide both sides by that y value. So you're going to divide by the number in front of the y, which is 3. You're going to divide that by 3, divide that by 3. Okay, working from left to right, we said we had to simplify. We know those 3's cancel out, so y equals, we just talked about this. This is 4 over 3, right? So we know that can't reduce. We could type it into the calculator if we're not sure, but it's a good experiment. But we know it can't reduce. We know that has the x. Now negative 5 over 3. If you're not sure, we type that into our calculator, but we would find that would not reduce. Okay, so those are the 5 varieties that we would have. Maybe the x is on one side, just move it to the other side, follow the same procedures. Maybe x is on the other side and we have something with the y, just move that to the other side, follow the same procedures. Maybe we have everything on the other side other than just the y, just divide, follow the same procedures. Okay, maybe we have the x and y on the same side, but we need to add a 1. Okay, follow the same procedures. And then maybe we have the most basic style, we have x and y on the same side.